I was experiencing anger today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, nothing really.
Are you mad at me?
No.
Just assume everyone's mad at me. It was about me. I
knew
knew it.
Everything pissed me off today.
I'm sorry.
Hold on a second. Okay. You know, I went out to like price a new, what do you call this thing? Computer. Yeah, but I was looking at the MacBook Air.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember MacBook Airs as being like really small. You know, like compact little thing you could just like throw around.
Right, like a Chromebook.
But now they're like the same size. They look exactly like MacBook Pros. And they're like almost as expensive.
What is because I'm toying with the idea of wanting, but I want you to, I don't want to buy any duplicate equipment. Like part of me wants to like build a studio again and do a podcast. I'm like, why would I do a podcast studio when Mike has it all?
Yeah, it's just...
I just like this crap, and I want new things. That's what I'm doing.
I just need this... Yeah, well...
You actually need it for this.
Well, yeah, but see, that also like feeds into my addiction. Like, it feeds into my cravings and my desires to have new shit all the time.
And it wears off.
Right. Like, I actually went down to...
Micro Center.
You
really? I love that place.
I went down there to price them, and I almost walked out of there with like thousands of dollars worth
of
stuff.
When did you go?
A couple weeks ago. Well, about a week ago.
During the week or a weekend?
During the week.
So you could have visited me for lunch.
I could have. I didn't know, that you had lunch. You seem like the type of person that doesn't take a lunch.
I don't take a lunch,
See?
But I would for you.
Oh, all right. Well, next time I'm over there, I'll call you. But anyway, it's sort of like it's the whack-a-mole, right? Like,
who's the type of person that? Okay, go on.
I just got back from my trip where I had to like. Not drink for whatever half a week, and so I felt like I wanted to go out and spend money on something. It was so weird, and I look back on this now and I think it was total like addiction weirdness working its way through me because I'm sitting at the conference and I'm like, what I need to do right now is buy a MacBook Air for the podcast.
Interesting.
So I'm in South Carolina. I poke up the nearest Apple store and I'm like, I wonder if I can get over there and just pick it up. And then I was like, what am I doing? Isn't that something? I didn't really think about it until recently.
I'm definitely guilty of that too. And, when I'm analyzing my old behaviors and things like that, because once you stop drinking and using drugs, we're always trying to find the leak, like what else? Like what is
find the leak? Yeah, there's a hole in the wetsuit.
There's something leaking,
the dry suit.
I'm always trying to analyze, and I definitely identify with that kind of issue, and I'm seeing it in my son. And I was explaining to him because he sees something and then he gets fixated on it like this, the switch OLED, and he gets it in his head and it's all he thinks about. And I explained to him, I said, Noah, this is not good. This is an impulse that you have to learn how to say no to yourself.
Yeah. I'm terrible at that. That's why I have a variety of like cameras and microphones and stuff that I just don't use,
Yeah, that's why I
should never buy in the first place.
I used to have 20 Gibson Les Pauls practically.
And guitars are different though. Instruments are different.
But they hold their value because when I sold them.
See, did you? Because the last time I sold my Strat up in the Bronx, I only got like 2 bottles of crack for it. So.
Oh, you got it for well. I have some stories about that.
I guess the guys were not really.
It's like when I traded my Honda Accord for 4 bundles of heroin. True story.
Yeah.
And we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, the podcast about 2 middle-aged suburban dads in their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Nat X.
And I'm Mike R.
And boy, do we have a show for you. Today on RMA. As the nascent spring creeps through the wet leaves, nudging the budding flowers and casting a renewing sunlight across the earth's visage, RMA marches forward with another Recovery in the News Extra, discussing the next big addiction treatment and the trauma-informed workplace. Extra, extra, read all about it. All this and more today on a very special edition of RMA. And welcome.
Welcome. Did you get... You're an English major, right?
I was.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly, because it sounds like something that you had to write for a paper.
I was an English major for 22 years.
As the nascent spring creeps through the wet leaves. Now that's
not bad.
A little
Too much?
Disturbing.
Is it really?
Nascent spring creeping through the leaves, nudging the budding flowers. Like that's like dirty old man aqualung stuff.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I was about to print this at work, and I noticed I forgot to write something. So that was my
that's good.
5-second little write-up there. But yeah. There you go. Here we are.
You know who we have to thank? As usual, we have to thank
the fans, all of the new patrons.
We have to thank our Patreon members.
That's right. We got a few new ones.
Yeah, we did. And we were continuously thankful for the old ones.
We love you.
This episode is brought to you by. Yeah, I see. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't get that thing when I look at it on the dashboard. I don't get the per month.
Are you on the app?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the web?
Yeah. Maybe I need to upgrade the app.
Yes, you do.
Anyway, so we're a listener-supported podcast, and
yes, we are.
I love saying that because it's so NPR.
Yes.
And if you would like to help support what we do here at RMA, mosey on over to patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages and sign up. We have all different tiers of support are available from $3 on up, and $3 will get you a sticker.
You get a sticker,
and then
but that's not the reason for joining. That's just
but
an
it's an incentive. It's an incentive. What will really happen is once you join up, Nat will send you the codes to unlock the secret vault of the Discord server.
The sticker is for the first tier, just to to come in and chat on the Discord server. Then there's the $8 tier, Friar Tuck.
Yes.
And then they get a mug and the golden circle.
Except unless you're Liz.
Well, she's getting it.
You don't get a mug.
She was refusing to receive things in the mail, and she didn't realize that she'd be getting something in the mail that was cool.
Is that all straightened out?
It's been straightened out.
Okay, good.
Queen Elizabeth is good.
All right. So those of you who don't know what Patreon is, it's a members-only subscription service. Like I said, you get access to the Discord, private messages, chat, and video meeting platform. It's like having a recovery support family right at your fingertips. You'll also get extra mini shows, pictures, exclusive merch for joining, and an added level of support for our collective recovery.
Yep.
Are we going to record any part of the show on video today?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Well, we're looking, we've been toying around.
Something different.
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly looking snazzy, but, we were toying with different things to give you guys on the Patreon, that we could do. Video episodes were an idea we had early. We've done a few of those. I'd like to do more.
They just take so much time.
Yeah, but I definitely want to do more of those. So what we've been doing is when we get an interview over Zencastr, we have the video interviews.
Yes.
And then the last week we did the video of recovery in the news. And Week in Weird. So there's all kinds of stuff on there, but really the support and the discussion group is where it's at, man. We're having fun.
Yeah, we are. And if you are a Patreon member and you have not yet joined us on Discord, please do that.
Yeah, write me if you don't know how to get the link or something.
Yeah, Nat's very diligent about sending the link out to new members. Yep. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about the Patreon.
Well, I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
If I haven't, I just wanted to read the names when you list new members. Okay. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, David, new member. Thank you, Anita, new member. Thank you, David G. Thank you, Kyle. And thank you, Tim C. And everybody who has signed up, thank you very much. That's
thank you very much.
Just the report that I see when I log in.
Thank you.
So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right. And
now you have to say the housekeeping thing.
Yes, I have one more thing to say.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Welcome to all the Monksters listening stateside, around the world, down the street, across the table, and right next door. Welcome all. Settle in, buckle up, and get ready for excitement, comedy, tragedy, intrigue, mystery, and so much more. Where can they find us, Mike?
MiddleAgesRecovery.com, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. Come hang out with us on our private Facebook group, which you can find by searching for our public Facebook page, Recovery in the Middle Ages.
Yep.
And then we'll let you in. Join us on Sundays at 11:30 Eastern Time, where we have our weekly Recovery in the Middle Ages meetings that are chaired by the great G Money Smooth and the lovely and talented.
And
yes.
Mike shows up lately to it. I'm going to get back to it.
I'm on time, usually.
Yeah, Mike's there. Yeah, you
I
get
thought
to
you
those
said
meetings.
I showed up lately.
No, lately, not late. He's always on time.
I'm always on time. And Erin is every other week. And if you're having trouble finding it or getting the secret Zoom codes, just email me at mikeR@middleagesrecovery.com, and I will provide those to you. You do not have to be a Patreon member or a member of the Facebook group or a member of anything, really, to show up for the meeting. They're not traditional 12-step meetings. We don't hold hands. We couldn't do that anyway. We don't pray. Occasionally we sing. No, we don't sing.
I'll say.
So you haven't been in a while,
That's
so
right.
you should come and sing.
It's topic-based. You either pick a topic and discuss it.
Yes, usually our leaders pick a nice topic, and everybody just sort of riffs on it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's dead air right there.
Dead air.
Great reviews will be read on the air. The best place to do that is the Apple Podcast app, but we'll take it where we can get it. It's because we're both married. If you like what you hear, please give us I'm going to get in trouble. Please get 5 stars and help others find RMA through search. Every review helps. Do we have any reviews this week? Didn't you have one from Podbean?
Yeah, I did. So we had a review from Podbean.
Who uses Podbean?
I don't know.
I mean, besides us to put the show out.
I sent it to you, and it was something...
That was like ages ago.
Yeah, and you can review, on iTunes is a great place to do a review. We'll read it.
Are you still trying to find it?
So, and you can also go to Spotify. And I found it. Okay. So this is on Podbean.
Oh, I found it.
And it's from Alex. It's a long name.
Yeah.
Here it is. Best podcast on recovery.
All right.
I can really relate. Right. Banter is hilarious.
All right.
Keep it up. More podcasts.
Keep it up. We try. Again, married men.
That's right. Can you give me a little juice in the can? Actually, it doesn't sound good. I need juice in the can.
What kind of juice you want in your can?
Give me a little juice in the can. You sicko.
All right. I'm going to turn your knob right now. How's that?
Testing. A little, yes. Okay,
is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus Christ.
What is wrong?
What kind of show is this?
I don't know.
I thought this was a family show.
Tell us your story by logging on to middleagesrecovery.com. I'd tell you to fill out the Your Story form, but I don't know that it's working. So just send us an email to mikeR@middleagesrecovery.com, and we'll read your story. We'd look forward to it. And we have a phone number, don't we?
Yeah, yes, we do. You can call the RMA hotline at 516-888-6297 and leave us a message, keeping it at about 3 minutes. Tell us your story, say hello, tell a joke, act out your life, tell us how much the show means to you, and we'll definitely play it on the air. No one has called the hotline since the holidays. It's rather.
Are we sure? Can you check to see if?
Well, I get a notification every time.
All right. Well,
so I will look. I will make sure to look.
An encouragement for people to do that.
Yes.
Moving right along, we've got a very special Monkster Speaks.
What the baby up to? Let's take a peek. The segment we call Monkster Speaks. Speak.
By the power of recovery, I call on you, Monksters. Speak.
I just had to listen to that again.
That's from He-Man.
That's He-Man, right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So I had a pretty a passing thought the other day.
Just one.
And it didn't pass me completely because I thought this is something.
This was I was like, what a cheery way to introduce that topic. Sorry, go ahead. This was on my mind. So what I wrote was, hey guys, I was just thinking to myself, I haven't wished I would die in my sleep in a very long time. And it reminded me of how far I've come. I used to go to bed every night wishing for the angel of death to painlessly whisk me away to the great beyond, disappointed each time the sun hit my face the next morning. These days, I'm just grateful for... It's hilarious. These days, I'm just grateful for another chance to get it right. What is something you use as a measure of a changed and more healthy life today in your recovery? Damn.
That was dark. But
it was fucking dark is right,
I'm
my
sorry.
friend.
Well,
Were you having a bad day?
I had some bad days last week.
Did you?
Yeah, we could talk about. But this was one of them.
You didn't reach out.
Well, I reach out in my own way. I was managing. Yeah, you should have just. I didn't know what to say even. It was one of those depressions where I'm like, am I depressed or I was totally perplexed by the way I was feeling. But luckily I shook it off today.
Okay.
So Ann M says, I am slowly learning to have more self-confidence and gratitude, appreciating my faults and knowing, yes, I have made bad choices and bad mistakes.
Okay.
Yep.
Jim C. says, sending a healthy human adult into the world that I pretty much raised solo with help, having a bunch of instruments and a running safe car that gets winter tires, that's a big trophy of stability. Winter tires. You don't need them, but you're better off with them. That's very true.
Kyle E. says, seeing progression again in hobbies I've neglected in the past. Me too. It's fun creating something and actually having something to show for it, even if you don't show anybody. I love that.
Of course. That's great.
I love
it's
that.
like you just make art,
just to do it.
Yeah.
For a long time, because when I was like a kid up until I went to school for music and everything, I had this like in my head that I had to be a professional musician. I had to make it. And that was everything I practiced for and was performing for and creating. I had this idea in my head that it only mattered if it was out and I was like, professional and you know what I mean? And like,
right.
So when I began to realize that, no, you're not going to be a rock star. It's just, it's a ridiculous thing to wish for. It took the wind out of me a little bit, and it took some maturity and time to begin to realize that's not the point of doing things like creating and playing music,
right?
And art.
Yeah,
it's the act of doing it, and even if you don't show it, so it's a great point. Even if nobody sees it, you're doing it, and it's kind of like how we did this podcast. We assumed it would be you and me, and that's it. And we did it for the love of it, and we continue to. But the fact that people are listening now is just an added bonus. It's not the point.
I think that's just how the universe works. And I don't know if you want to call it karma or if you want to just call it luck or being at the right place at the right time. But there are an awful lot of people out there who are famous rock stars or whatever, who are, far less talented probably than you are. I remember when I had failed out of college the first time, I was kind of looking for something to do. And I went down to this like technical school. It was called the Institute for Audio Research. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They were in Manhattan, and they always had an ad in the back of the Village Voice.
I think I have heard that.
Yeah, so they were like, we'll teach you how to run a board. We'll teach you, how to mix albums, and you can work in the music industry, and it'll be awesome. And so I went down there, and I had an interview with some guy who was sitting in a chair, and he was like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, man? And I was like, at Madison Square Garden playing in front of 20,000 people. Yeah. And he goes, well, that's not going to happen. Right. And I was like, fuck you.
Fuck you.
Like,
of course
you haven't even heard me hack my way through a bad Grateful Dead song yet. How do you know that?
How could you?
But I mean, so maybe I was like talked out of that early when young, but, it got me to thinking like, why do we do what we do? I mean, there are people who write books, they don't publish them, and then there are people who write books and they end up getting published, and it's all fucking. Yeah. You can be a hard worker, but I think the intention matters so much. Like if your intention is to go out there and make money and be famous, I think that maybe that doesn't come to you.
Yeah.
Maybe if your intention is to make art and to just honor your spirit, your soul, whatever.
Right, just like Justin Bieber. All he wanted to do was make that YouTube video. He was just a kid.
There's an exception to every rule.
He played it, and then from there, he became famous, but he didn't intend that.
Is that what happened with him? I had no idea.
He was a YouTube, I forget where I heard that, but he started out he made this YouTube video of him playing the guitar, just a kid. And it went viral, and then he blew up because of it, but he didn't know.
But the thing is with kids today, like that's such a bad thing. Yeah. Like, because everybody is these, I see my son doing it all the time. He's looking at these TikTok videos that have like millions of views, and he's watching people get rich being content creators, and he's thinking like that's, easy. It's a possibility. It'll happen. And, all he's got to do is like do the, press the right magic buttons and it's going to happen. But
yeah. And Noah was doing that too. And he gets so discouraged when he didn't get 1 million views.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Noah, and then he saw us doing better, and he was like, well, why are you doing good and I'm not on the downloads? And I said, Noah, for one thing, we do this every single week. I work on it constantly.
Yeah.
You can't just, and I tried to work with him on his show. I'm like, let's, put something together. Like, what do you want to do? What should you talk about? What game do you want to play? And he's like, no, I just want to wing it and make $1 million. But
there's so many people though that do put the work in and still don't.
Right.
Hit it, you know what I mean?
And,
And so like
especially in music.
If you set music, theater, whatever, acting. So if you set yourself up, right, to see that as the measure of success, fame and fortune,
Yeah.
then you are invariably going to be disappointed unless you're one of the rare few for whom grace reaches out and touches, you know?
Yeah, I would think of my artistic and musical efforts as buying a lotto ticket. 99% of it you just expect to, you know, get out of it the performing and, you know, maybe reaching someone or playing something for your friend. And if for some reason it blows, then great. It's like a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
That are the chances.
Well, it's really Buddhist in a way, because you if you're not attached to the outcome, you're not going to be like horribly disappointed when it doesn't happen. So you just kind of like go with the flow, man.
And let the flow be with you.
Yeah.
The wizened one, Alan B, says, I lived in a park and now I have a mortgage. I'm not sure which one is better, but yes, that is
Depends on what park.
a way to measure success.
He's talking about Tompkins Square Park. He's probably better with a mortgage. Although now it's full of hipsters. I don't know.
Who knows? But yes, thank you, Alan. So great to hear from you.
Is this Deanne? Is that how you pronounce that? Deanne S?
I think so.
Looking online at things I can afford to buy.
Yay.
Not waking up thinking, oh, fuck, here we go again, and having to get up and shuffle all day. Oh, man, I remember the shuffle, the daily shuffle. Enjoying small things like walking the dogs at sunset. So many things. Great post.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Adam P. wrote a little bit here. It says, I am happy that I am no longer ill in the bathroom every morning from anxiety over fears of 1, all the work I haven't done and slacking off on the job. 2, being found to be drinking on the job. Me too. 3, my wife finding out that I am drunk. I also had fears that my liver and or kidneys would be failing on me at some point, but did nothing to find out. I think I felt like getting a diagnosis would only drive it home that I have a problem, and also declare to everyone close to me that it's a huge problem. I didn't look forward to death, but I sure wasn't doing anything to delay it. I'm glad that I no longer feel like my organs are out of whack, even though I am now overweight because I am not drinking each one of my meals. I need to work on that. Thank you, Adam.
You know, I really identified with this because especially all the work I haven't done in the slacking off in the job and being... because I didn't really drink on the job, but I certainly showed up.
I slack off like twice a day.
I slack off now, but
actually,
but I have vivid memories of staying out till like 3:00 in the morning, taking the late ferry home to Staten Island, and then having to be in court at 9:00 in the morning to argue a motion. Now,
yeah,
you know, and just standing there, and I remember thinking, I could be much more effective at arguing if I didn't have 3 hours of sleep and still smell like I was in a bar all night.
It's the worst.
And the whole thing with the fears about the liver and the kidneys too. It was like that was like a constant thing that was running through my brain.
Yeah.
Like how much longer can I do this without
what kind of
something
damage?
Terrible happening to me?
And you're
like
not going to
organs.
a doctor. Like,
no, of course not.
I mean, I wasn't the way I was, and one of the worst feelings I ever had was if I had stayed up all night on like cocaine or something like that.
Yeah.
Because even if I never slept on that. And
right, me either.
You're like, I got to be up by 8:00 and it's like 6.
Right.
You're like, fuck. And you run out of your shit and you're like, you lie down and you're sweating and you take a shower. And you smell like cigarettes because I'm, compulsively smoking because I'm so jittery. And you have to go, and either you call in and make some kind of excuse and then you feel like shit about that and call your guy and do it again. Or I would try and get through work.
Yeah, hit the shower and do it.
The worst. And you're looking people in the eye and you're trying to like, do they know?
Yeah.
Do they know? Can they tell? And
right.
It's this constant fuck.
Nothing like listening to the chirping of little birds at 6:00 in the morning while you're...
Oh, my God. Or like if you're leaving whatever apartment you were, trap house you were holed up in, and you're walking out in the morning. And you
talk about the walk of shame.
People are going to work and you're walking in the opposite direction. Motherfuck.
Yeah.
In any case.
Thanks for that trip down.
Anytime.
Grant B, moderator.
I pulled this off of Facebook.
Grant B, the moderator.
G-Money Smooth.
Yes. Like many of us, initial recovery meant giving up some control over my life. First year of pandemic, I spent in a sober living house, then in an outpatient program. Voluntary, but absences where positive tests would have gotten me kicked out and feeling like a failure. And under the watchful eyes of my wife and daughter while working from home, my first solo trip, a hike with a cafe RE group that involved a long drive and a hotel stay, made me feel like an adult again. Now I've made solo travel a regular thing. Yeah.
Thanks, Grant.
solo travel is sort of what I always did while I was drinking.
Yeah, I was thinking about you going on that trip, and I was trying to put myself in your shoes. And that is a test I haven't had yet. You know, I've passed a lot of sobriety tests, so to speak. You know, going to a party with drinking, doing this, doing that. And one thing I haven't done was have to travel and stay in a hotel room by myself. And hopefully I never have to.
You just occupy your mind with other things.
Oh, now I've got the Monksters. I've got my tandem sponsor.
Right.
And
there's always something to engage with while you're on the road that's not the mini bar.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd be all right.
Yeah. Brad says, I don't know why I said it like that, because I'm sure Brad's a nice guy. Brad says there are so many benchmarks, but I think my top one currently is all the times I used to write off as times it would be impossible to have plans, be productive, show up. Sundays were a wash, lest I was brunching and Sunday fun daying. I was in a dark hole of regret. Sunday brunching. I never get into the Sunday brunch drink at the brunch thing, but it's a big deal in Manhattan. There's all these videos on the internet of drunken 20-year-olds like falling all over the street after drinking like pitchers of mimosas and Bloody Marys.
They used to call it, there was a dancing brunch phase when I had a job as marketing director for this international furniture. It was the weirdest job I ever had. And it was this German guy, and he was like, high fashion. It's like, you have to come to the dancing brunch on Sunday. And I was like, no, thank you, Dennis. You're making me uncomfortable.
What was the dancing brunch?
I don't know. I didn't go, and he was very offended. He said, why didn't you come to the dancing brunch? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't want to go to it. And I was so strung out on heroin. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine myself taking a train on a rainy Sunday in New York City. And then, what's a dancing bride? I don't know.
You drink your face off and then you dance?
I couldn't imagine.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's a dancing brunch, yeah. Sehr gut.
Yeah. Mondays, I was The Walking Dead. Morning meetings the day after going to a basketball game with friends, forget about it. Now these things come and go differently. I can commit to dinner with a loved one on a Sunday night or going on a walk in the park with a friend / mentor. I can show up Monday morning, groggy, sure, but not a waste of space, tortuously anxious and depleted of all dopamine and serotonin. So true. I don't have to strategize when I schedule meetings or calls for work based on the level of hungover I know I'll be. Impossible to, at best, tolerable ahead of time. I can let life come as it may and not need to try insanely hard strategizing my life, which was essentially protecting my addiction vigorously, and know that I will be okay. Yes, right? I mean, all of the managing that had to go on that comes along with the drinking, with the drugs, managing the rest of your life so that you can fit the giant elephant of addiction into its place.
Yeah. Shoehorning it in.
Shoehorning the elephant of addiction into its elephant pen. I've lost the analogy, but
Sunday fun day.
But think about it. How much work used to go into that?
Oh my God. The amount of work we used to put in energy
and scheduling. Like he's right. Like I would deliberately not schedule things because I knew I would be too hungover to do them.
Yeah, too hungover, or you have to go meet up with your guy and you have to come up with some excuse to whomever you're lying to and work that in between.
And then try and remember who you said what to.
Forget it. And like, I would always do things where I would, be late for one thing and late for another and manage the excuse for each one so I could carve out 2 hours to go grab something, and in the middle of the day, and it'd be, nightmare.
This is a fun topic.
Yeah. Anna Q. Oh, Nat, it breaks my heart to read that. But I'm so glad you don't feel like that anymore. Thanks, Anna.
Do another one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mac P. I got to be...
I'm sorry. I don't know why that's funny.
What are you laughing at?
I don't know.
I got to be sober to watch my little one learn to ride a bike for the first time. What a blessing to not have been drunk or hungover. Agreed. Hope says, my relationship with my children. That's a great, that's something I think about a lot.
Yes.
Not your relationship with your children. My relationship with my children.
I'm honored that you think so much of my children.
Elizabeth J. Is this the same as Liz B? No, obviously it's
No,
not. Liz
it's
B.
a J, not a
You're
B.
right. You're right.
It's a different letter in the alphabet.
Sorry. Elizabeth J says, getting a call from one of my boys to pick them up from a friend's house late at night and being able to do so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although I still don't like getting those calls because I hate getting out of bed once I'm in bed.
Ugh, me too.
Like 9 o'clock.
Once
if I
you're
get a
in.
call after 9 o'clock to come pick somebody up, I'm just
Not a
annoyed.
happy camp.
But you know what? That's part of parenting, right?
That's right.
Shiloh G says, Shiloh G sounds like
It's a rap name.
that I get up every morning to be grateful. Sorry, I don't know where that accent came from. That I get up every morning grateful to feel good, to have the time to stretch my body.
Drink some coffee and not hate myself for feeling like crap because I drank so much the night before.
Yeah,
People commented
funny about that.
People commented on the last show because we were like cracking up the whole time.
We were overtired, underpaid.
Do you want to read this long one from David G?
David G, not very imaginative, but my apartment, the electricity in my apartment, my dogs, my driver's license, my cars, my full belly each night, my paid bills, the relationship I have with my father, the Sac State education I pay for myself, my psychology degree, the fact that I can go out to breakfast anytime I want, meeting really cool new people like Grant Boykin, and that I wake up each morning knowing that I can accomplish whatever I put my heart and soul into and remember it all the very next day because I didn't black out the previous night. Because I didn't black out the previous night, now wondering who I need to apologize to, or even worse, end a friendship with. Now I get to choose my destiny. And hope is a new 4-letter word that I say to myself and that I can depend on.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
You've made it. I really like that.
I've been itching to use that. I'm sorry.
Chris M says, I have a list of goals I have set many of which I added before I stopped drinking. They range from small tasks I needed to remember to larger projects to more bucket list type long-term dreams. So many of them are crossed off now. I keep them on my phone and take a few minutes every weekend to review, feel proud, and reflect on the new ones.
Just to go back to the new 4-letter word, hope. Hope.
Hope DB.
Keep hope alive.
Yes.
Hope was a word that I didn't have. Like it wasn't in my vocabulary. I just assumed that I would just go on forever living this gray man life.
It's like a zombie.
Moderate alcoholism.
Wandering the earth.
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, now there's hope.
Yeah.
You can look forward to things, you know.
Before you were a hopeless dope fiend, and now you're a dopeless hope fiend.
Where's that from? AA?
Seen
NA?
it on a
Probably.
T-shirt.
Okay.
I've seen it on a bumper sticker. I like it though.
All right.
Okay. Moving on. I just want to say thank you everybody for
thanks,
those.
folks.
After reading all of that and discussing it, I think that was really good because it's getting us to remember.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can forget just how bad it got and just, how to be grateful for these little things that aren't so little. Like for me, sometimes I'm driving somewhere and I just go, I can drive legally.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal. And it was a very big deal for me for a long time. So thank you guys very much for that.
Would you say you have an attitude of gratitude?
I would. An attitude of gratitude.
Somebody else was quoting 12-step slogans to me the other day. But who? Who do I know is in 12-step?
Nothing changes.
12-strep. 12-step is what we get.
So what happened to you last week? Anything interesting in the life of Mike?
Yesterday was my 12th anniversary. So
wait, really?
Yeah.
I didn't get you anything.
You didn't get me anything for my 11th anniversary.
I'm so sorry for that. I feel really bad about it.
Fine.
I probably won't get you anything next year either,
fine.
so just be ready for that.
Aaron and I went out to Two Spring. We had a lovely dinner.
Well, congratulations.
And Two Spring is a constant, I'm trying to figure out the owner there, Jesse, who wrote a book about his recovery from addiction.
He's a fancy chef. For those of you who don't know, he was on TV.
He won the Iron Chef competition.
He's one of those guys.
Yeah. Jesse Schenker, his name is. And he owned a couple of high-end restaurants in Manhattan. And then I guess he came out here, he found some investors, and now he's got a restaurant in our town, which is far too good for this town in terms of the quality of the food there.
Yeah.
It really is something else. And he's actually recently, and this should not be a commercial for 2 Spring, but I'm going to kind of make it one anyway.
Oh, 4 Spring.
4 Spring,
Ooh.
which is just him sitting in the center of a group of diners, and he on the fly creates these amazing food creations.
We have to do it.
We have to do it, but I think it's only a prefix. They accept no dietary restrictions or limitations, and I think it's like $300 a head.
Yeah.
So,
but
Erin and I looked at it and we were like, "Yeah,
hey,
I don't
when
know."
we hit 100 patrons, taking them out on the company card. You and me only, though.
I was going to say we're taking all the patrons to 4
just
Spring.
Just we got to celebrate, and that's
We're
where
going to take our patrons' money and spend it on a nice dinner.
No,
is that what we're doing?
We're going to donate it.
All right,
to Jesse Shanker.
Well, mostly to Podbean.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I can't figure this guy out because he's got the most extensive liquor and wine selection in his restaurant that I think I've ever seen. And he, by all accounts, is in recovery. I mean, he was an ex-heroin addict and all this stuff. I mean, I'm not speaking out of school because he wrote an actual book about it.
We should get him on.
But when I went there about a year ago, I noticed there were no NA options on the menu. And I complained about it a little bit, but they said, okay, the bartender will make you something. And they did. It was a nice, refreshing mocktail. But now they have mocktails on the menu, a whole section of them. Great. I ordered one last night. It was horrible.
Yeah, really bad.
I ordered like the wrong one. It had a wilted basil leaf in it. It just tasted. You shouldn't make a drink that tastes like basil.
I got something there that was non-alcoholic they made up that I liked.
It was probably the light one with the lemon juice and the cucumber. Is that it?
Maybe.
Anyway,
it was a while ago.
So we went there last night. We had a nice dinner. Erin had some wine, and I had my mocktail and a bottle of Pellegrino. And we're both like, God, how much does that bottle of Pellegrino cost? We're worried about it. And I'm thinking like, I would 3 years ago, I'd sit there and I'd drink like 3 glasses of wine at $19 a glass. And I wouldn't ask how much the wine was.
But now
I want to know how much the Pellegrino cost. So that was good. And it's, Erin and I had a great time.
Oh,
congrats. It was lovely.
How many years now?
12.
12 years. That's right. You said.
Yeah. So the working from home picture has cleared up. I'm doing 2 in the office and 3 at home.
2 what?
Days in the office in New Jersey.
Starting when?
Starting May 2nd.
Okay, that's not so bad.
Yeah. I'm home on Thursday.
They're going to ease you back in.
No, I hope that's it forever.
All right. Which days again?
I will be here on Tuesdays. Wait, I'll be here.
Yeah.
On Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Okay, so we can do the show.
Yes, the show will not be affected.
The show will go on.
The show will go on.
All right, well, that's great. And then you got her Erin's birthday coming up, so this is an expensive week for you.
This week is a rough one.
Oy.
Yeah.
So do you want to reveal what your plans are? Or is this going to be like like our birthdays for my wife and I just go by and we don't really do much?
I feel guilty if I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I do some. I always try, we do try and do something, but it is definitely less these days.
Well, when there's family and, she's got her mother and, it always ends up being like some family thing.
Yeah. Her mom, St. Christine's mom usually will go out to dinner or something. Yeah, but I mean, I like to do something nice.
I got her present, but it's.
Don't reveal it on the air.
She knows what it is.
Oh.
But I won't reveal it anyway. But I will say that UPS came with it today.
Is it a vacuum cleaner?
Close.
Is it a wok?
I would love to get a nice wok.
Nice wok would be cool. Those were really popular in the 80s.
My parents had a plug-in wok.
Interesting.
Did you ever hear that? It's a wok. You just plug it in, and it doesn't get very hot. So it's like the opposite of what a wok should do.
So it woks, but not enough.
It doesn't quite wok right.
Wok, but don't run.
Yes. Anyway, I don't know. That's it. UPS, UPS left a tag on the door. They're like, we rang and nobody was. There were 4 people in the fucking house. They didn't ring the bell.
Well, hey, here's the thing. I was going to comment on this on the show. There is 4 people in this house, correct?
Right now?
Yeah. How many people? Okay. So when I come in to do the show, it's like a ghost town. Well, I'm like, where is everybody? I mean, it's a decent sized place, but I mean, where are they? You don't hear all I hear is the dogs, but I come in and it's just,
2 teenagers are in their own rooms.
Yeah. You think a teenager would be loud.
No, they're very quiet. Yeah. And Ben is in Oculus land.
Yeah.
In his room, like wandering around a virtual reality. And Erin, the dogs, clearly that they're
The dogs are here. You know, I have a ranch, which for those of you who don't know,
cattle and everything.
It's there. It's just everything's on one floor, so I hear everything, see everything. There's no walking into my house without being bombarded by the laughter of children and the screams of their parents. You know, but this is like Castle Grayskull. You know, you've got a couple floors, and so it must be nice. And here's Mike playing his guitar. Chilling out, like, hey, let's go do a show. And I'm like, what is this? What kind of bachelor pad are we dealing with here?
Actually, Erin was out picking up Jack at the train station, so that's why the two of them were not here.
But still, every time,
yeah,
so it's very nice place. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
Erin is very upset.
Why?
Because she says that I don't offer you dinner when you come.
Yeah, how could you? I was going to say something.
Do you want some spaghetti and meatballs?
You know what? Can we pause the show and feed me?
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back. That's a nice sentiment, but as you can see, I don't eat. I have given up on eating.
So you're working on a nascent eating disorder?
Yes. And, well, that's cool.
Yeah. What about you, Nat?
Well,
what have you been up to?
I had a very, very exciting week.
Did you?
Very exciting. A few things. The biggest thing was WrestleMania was last week.
Like, did you go live?
I wish. No, I was just... I've been watching wrestling with my younger son.
On the TV?
On the TV. I've taken him there once to one of the shows, and for his birthday, we got him a ticket, and he's so into it. It's the cutest thing. He's 7. He makes up his own little signs like the people in the crowd and holds them up for his favorite wrestlers.
Yes.
It's our bonding thing. My father is completely horrified by it, and I think it's funny. And so it was WrestleMania, and this year it's a special event for the professional wrestlers, which is completely ridiculous. And it was 2 nights. They did a Saturday night and then a Sunday night.
Wow, back to back.
And it was just WrestleMania all weekend. But
you get these things on pay-per-view, or are they on just some ESPN channel?
They are on pay-per-view, but because I'm a Peacock subscriber, it's just part of it.
What the fuck is Peacock?
Peacock is the NBC streaming service. So it's like $9, but so you don't pay extra for it. But the other thing that was really exciting is I think I talked last week about my son Noah, who I'm trying to find a place for. Basically, like he's not into sports. He's 11 years old. And so I'm trying to find the things that he's interested in that are not just sitting in his room looking at his phone.
Right.
And I'm having some success. And we were going to the Board Game Cafe last week. We passed this acting school. He was like, Daddy, I want to check this out. I'm like, really? Long story short, we signed him up for this acting class. And Saturday was his first one. And it was really cool. I was very impressed, honestly. It's kind of like... it's 2 hours. It's an hour of improv work, whatever that means, and an hour of like working on a script.
Oh.
Each child was emailed his own little monologue to work on.
Like a comedy monologue?
The monologue wasn't comedy.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it funny, and it's just really cool. And he was so into it. And now he's got to memorize part of it for the next one. And they have all these instructions like, you're going to deliver it like you're, saying it to some fictional character or someone. You have to, like Santa Claus, and then change the way you deliver it depending on who you imagine you're speaking to.
Wow.
So it's like kind of cool. And I was really excited for him. But the thing that came up was in the town of this neighboring town that's very hip. I used to go there to drink and to hang out. And
they have a lot of bars there.
Bars all over the place, but there's really cool stores. That's where the Board Game Cafe is. And
there's a cool comic book store there, too.
A really cool comic book store. There was an awesome book, like just that kind of town. A lot of old hippies and so
rich hippies.
I had 2 hours, and I dropped him off, and I had 2 hours, and I was like, it's only 15 minutes, so I was going to come home, keep running errands. I'm just like, I'm on like a daddy does it rampage. I just want to get shit done. And I said to my wife, okay, you need me to run to the supermarket, or what kind of errands do you need me to do? Like, I'm out. I got my car. Do you want me to come home and clean up the house? Like, tell me. And she's like, no, just hang out and walk around a bit, grab some coffee and whatever. And I was like, what do you mean? I was totally dumbfounded by the idea of having some time to myself. And it took me a minute, but I was like, I could get you. And I walked around and I looked into stores and I caught up on some of my social media. And I got some coffee, and I was just like wandering around, and it was really nice. But I came upon something called a kombucha bar, which I sent a picture of on the Inner Sanctum. And it was, I don't really do kombucha like you like kombucha.
I love it.
But this place, it was so like, they had random skateboards and paraphernalia from hipsters. And they had like a beer tap for kombucha, different flavors.
Wow.
They have different things they can put in it, like Delta 10 THC, CBD.
Oh my God.
You can drop it. Like they have the whole fucking thing.
So I can get fucked up on kombucha and Delta 8?
Yeah. And it comes with a really cool bottle. And I was like tasting some of the kombucha, and I was talking to the nice lady. Of course, I have time, so here I am. I'm like, so what's your name? She's like, Myra. I'm like, how you doing? She's like, can I help you with something?
Can I help you, sir?
So I was kind of like, tell me about this. I'm like, this is my exact words. What is this?
Right.
And so she gave me the spiel, and I ended up walking out with
What was that?
What
was it? I mean, it's a place that sells THC and kombucha and skateboards?
Kind of.
Is this like a new kind of thing?
I guess. You go in, you can buy their very own kombucha that, I don't know if they make it or just have it on
Did
tap.
you sample any kombucha while you were there? Was it good?
Yes.
Huh.
Very tasty.
I got to go find this place.
It was excellent, actually. And I tried a bunch of them, and I got my own, whatever flavor it was.
Did you ask them if there was any alcohol in it? Because a lot of those things are brewed with alcohol.
I did.
Yeah.
And I told her I was in recovery.
Uh-huh.
And I said, a lot of my friends in recovery love kombucha. And so I would love to have, I drink a lot of soda and water, but it'd be nice to have something, fermented that isn't alcohol. She explained the process. She goes, my mom's in recovery.
Oh.
And she loves it. And there's no alcohol. They brew it apparently and ferment it up to the point where it would have had alcohol or something.
Wow.
And
I need to find this store because I love kombucha.
it's right across from the Paramount, I think. If you go up that street.
Yes.
It's very cool. Anyway, I had a very fun experience. It was nice to have some time and all of that. And Noah he's just really, and I'm trying not to be too excited about him finding the acting class because he's meeting new kids.
Right.
It's like he's getting the sports experience, like having a team and a coach.
Right.
But without the sports kids that he wasn't getting along with, and doing something he's interested in.
That's great.
And I thought it was great. It was really cool. Made me happy.
Have you noticed that Delta 8, that used to be like the synthetic THC that everybody was talking about,
doesn't get you high,
that I got really fucked
I was
up
taking that to sleep for a while.
Yeah. Now they have Delta 10. And
That's
Delta,
what they were
like
selling.
7 and like all these different varieties. Mm-hmm. And so when you sent me the picture of that kombucha place, that they said like if you leave your email, you can get a pre-roll. And I'm like, so what do they do? Do they take
They have the flower.
The flower has no THC in it though, so they must have to spray this on there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not
a
natural
thing,
at
though.
all.
I've seen that a lot where they have the CBD flower.
Yeah.
And so I guess they have all of that shit there. And
I don't know.
I don't go for that stuff.
I can't keep up with the weed and the weed derivatives.
That's why I don't touch it. Yeah, it's just easy.
Best to just ignore.
Yeah. I mean, I think
not for me.
It's interesting, and I'm not against it or anything. I don't have any moral opposition to this stuff. It's just not for me.
Well, I don't know, because I got a call from a friend, the same friend who I spoke about on last week's show, who said he was having some issues with AA and stuff.
Right.
And he called me just sort of check in.
Wasn't he tripping, or is that someone else?
Was he tripping? No.
You said somebody called you different guy?
Yeah, different guy.
Okay.
No. This is a guy last week who mentioned he had some issues with AA and he was, still smoking weed and stuff, but he quit cannabis, and he thought it was just about as hard as quitting booze.
Right.
Sleeplessness, agitation, all of this stuff. And he said that, he was shocked because he always thought of marijuana and cannabis products as sort of a benign, no issues, not an addictive substance, but he really was having some problems
That'll happen
quitting.
with anything. Coffee. I used to have a business partner.
This transcends coffee, though, man. This is like night sweats.
Oh, like the full.
Yeah, like the whole thing. And so he started going to Marijuana Anonymous, which I guess is a thing. I guess it's fine. And he goes, oh, they're much more chill than the people in AA meetings. And I'm like, that's not surprising, is it?
They're all chilled out, man. Yeah, it's a misnomer, or it's a misconception that marijuana is somehow, safe from all of the problems that the rest of the narcotics have. And it's not true.
I mean, maybe the weed from the 80s, like the Mexican ditch weed that I used to smoke.
It's like anything else.
Was not, but this stuff now, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of alarmist fucking old guy ranting against.
There's always someone who can,
smoking
overdo
weed.
it.
But I mean, if you want to smoke weed, go
smoke it up.
Smoke weed.
Smoke weed
every day.
But
anyway, I don't know. I thought that was interesting that. Just as weed is becoming ubiquitous, right? It's everywhere now, and there's people in the city just selling it off of carts.
Yeah,
and,
it's completely legal.
But
Dopey Dave was telling me
people are having all these problems with the.
I didn't realize it, but I was I forget why Dave called me, but he called me and he was in the city because I think he goes there for work or something, and he said something like he's like, man. Because weed is like everywhere in the city. It's I said, wait, it's
everywhere.
Legal? He goes, completely legal. And so he's walking around just trying to get to the subway or the train, and he can't turn around without someone throwing weed in his face.
Yeah, no, there's tables set up in Washington Square Park. People are just selling blunts.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And so that could be dangerous. Like if it only takes one bad day if you don't have your program together. Well,
I also don't think like these weed dealers are carting the kids really.
No, anybody can.
I mean, when I used to buy weed in Washington Square Park when I was a freshman in college, it was always sort of 50-50 whether I was going to get ripped off or not, or get something, sprayed with Raid or something, but kids today, they don't know how good they have it. They can just walk up to a table and buy like actual weed from somebody.
So I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. The other thing that happened, it was a very busy weekend. We have my son's cousin, who I call him my nephew, even though he's like my second cousin, twice removed or something. But it was his birthday, and so he came over. They wanted to sleep over. And I'm like, yes, but when there's a sleepover, it's daddy on duty. My wife, she kind of like, of course she's, she'll do dinner and stuff, but when she goes to bed, just like she's on her schedule for work.
Right.
So she's not staying up.
What do you actually have to do though?
Well, it's less and less as they get older, but I am sort of on top of them a little bit. Like I'm checking on them. It's not so bad, but it's also an anxiety that I have,
What are you anxious about?
I have
these kids, my kids have somebody over, like they come down here and I open the door and throw a piece of raw meat down every once in a while. Everybody seems to be fine.
I mean, I was better this time, but I tend to stay up a little bit more. Probably it's all in my head, but it makes me sleep worse, especially because my older son still has trouble sleeping on his own.
Oh, okay.
So he will almost always still at the age of 11, and we're working on this. He still comes up at 12:30. Oh, Landon fell asleep. Can we go to bed? So
really
he'll wake me up, and
wow.
So we're actually working on that big time.
Does anybody sleep in your house? That sounds so exhausting.
Well, for me it is.
It sounds like you don't sleep.
No,
you don't
much.
Eat and you don't sleep.
I don't eat. I don't sleep.
You should eat and sleep.
I should, but hopefully once he's more comfortable sleeping on his own, something we're working on.
I mean, in general, you should eat and sleep.
I should.
It's just, otherwise, because that's like your superpowers get diminished if you're lacking sleep.
I do. And I'm getting very thin.
You are getting thin. What's the matter? What's going on?
I don't eat. And I'm starting to get comments, and I'm just like, I just don't eat enough. So I'm going to get on a special diet where I eat.
That's a good diet.
And because clearly if I don't like actively make myself eat, I'll just drink coffee through it. And my
not
anxiety
healthy.
is high enough that I can push through the hunger. And the hunger actually, but I'm
Maybe you
starting
need to smoke some weed.
I think, maybe. I think I've lost 10 pounds since I started this job.
Really?
Yeah, I think. I
That's
haven't been weighing
stress.
myself.
You're stressed out, man.
But today I made it, one of the secretaries, who we have like floating secretaries depending on which doctor.
Cool.
Yeah, they're like woo, floating around. So this particular Beverly, she's like in her 70s or 80s. She's a sweet old lady, and of course she has no compunction of just like other old ladies, like tell you exactly what they think, you know? And she's made some comment. She's like, "Oh, Nat, you need to eat something. Why are you so thin?" She said like, "You're so thin," And I said, "Well, thank you." Because I get it. I'm like, "Thank you very much." She goes, "Oh, that's a good thing." I said, "I don't know. You tell me," and I kind of played it off, but I'm like, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, God, like, what is this shit with like people are constantly like telling me, well, when I was a little overweight, everyone feels so comfortable, like, oh, what happened? Look at the belly, And when I get thin, it's like, oh, you're so thin, you should eat something. But it reminded me, I had a little like trigger of when I was sick. When I was in my addiction, and I was 20 pounds less than what I am now.
Wow.
I was 128 or something.
Jesus
like that.
Christ.
Yeah, it was bad. Because then you really don't eat. Like I do eat. I usually eat between 10 and 2 a.m., which I thought would make me gain weight because I eat crap.
Your metabolism's so jacked.
I've been trying to just eat ice cream, and being lactose intolerant really is not good.
Fuck, man. But, I wish I had that problem.
Yeah. Well, you've seen me before. I mean, I gain weight, it'll happen, But it reminded me of, I got this feeling like, do they think I'm sick? Like for real? Like, because I was always trying to hide that I was using. And my weight was a real indicator of that. So my parents would look at me and, oh, he's using again. Or my wife or people. And so I'm starting to get those questions again.
That must be annoying.
Well, it's annoying. It's disconcerting. It makes me question myself and how I'm doing. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm not doing that good. Like, why am I so fucking thin? And what's wrong with me, And I don't know. It's just been bothering me. And so I guess I'll just do
Well, how do you feel? Because, that's really what matters.
I feel basically fine. I have a lot of energy. I'm like doing things. I feel good. I'm a little hungry, but...
Do you want a cookie?
Good.
Like, I have some cookies upstairs.
Yeah, I housed like a bag of these mini Tates at work. I'm like trying to, I don't know. I think if I just get back on my workout eating, but I have to actually work out too.
Drink some protein shakes or
yes,
some shit.
I have a whole tub of these muscle milk protein shakes I used to take for working out. I'll just take it. They're great. I'll take one every day. I'll make sure I eat. Like today, I finally ate lunch, and everybody in the office cheered, because they're always like, Nat, are you going to go eat? I'm like, I'm too busy to eat, And so today I said, I am going to eat. And they said, good, so that's something I've been struggling with.
I mean,
lately.
you've been through a very stressful period, a lot of changes, with the job and the store closing and everything. But I think, and maybe, I'm no therapist or anything, but maybe you're sublimating some of this stuff and you're pouring so much into the work because it's like distracting you from like the stuff that's in your head. And maybe you need to like re-engage with your head and start, spend a little time with Nat. Like, for example, you said last weekend when you were walking around in Huntington, you were like kind of beside yourself because you never really do that. You don't give yourself that time.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with myself.
You need to give yourself some time, my friend.
Yeah.
Because you can't just keep tightening the screw.
I need a balance. I need more balance.
You need more balance.
So that's where I'm at.
I just worry about you, man.
Yeah. I'll be okay. I just need to eat.
Okay.
It's starting.
Right.
Here's the thing. I feel like I've gotten past a certain point with this company. I have turned it around. I've hired the right people. Things are going more smoothly. I'm feeling more confident. And I think it's a good time to start scheduling some food.
I would agree. Any of you Monksters out there good at baking? You should send Nat some treats.
Yeah.
Hit me up on MikeR@middleagesrecovery.com, and I will figure out a way to get the goodies to Nat, so to speak.
And anyway, I still feel good, and I'm happy. I just want to look good. I want to look healthy. I don't want to be this, emaciated
You don't look unhealthy.
shell of myself.
You don't look unhealthy.
Well, good.
Not yet.
Not
But if
yet.
you lose another 10 pounds,
I'm not.
then we're going to have
there's
another
no
talk.
way I could lose 10 more pounds. I'm going to eat, guys. So send me your diet tips.
All right.
Okay, I've got a new segment.
You told me before today so I could come up with some music for it.
It's called A Particularly Pertinent Post.
Maybe I'll figure something out tomorrow.
Basically, this is from our private...
Wait, hold on.
What? You want to take a break?
Stop.
Yep.
Okay. That's where I'm going to put the music.
Yes. A Particularly Pertinent Post. We've got this great Facebook private group, which is completely free, and you just have to apply. It's on the Facebook page, and it's like 600-something people on there. And this was a post, I saw it, and I was like, oh man, that's a great point. I want to do a show on this. I was just like, so I didn't write all of the response, but I just wanted to discuss.
Okay, let's discuss.
So, David K. says,
What was the post?
he says, counting days? Good subject.
Oh, okay.
Food for thought. There was a day I realized I stopped counting the days since my last drink. At some point, it didn't matter as much. Does this mean that I don't care anymore? Nope. It means I am growing and still growing one day at a time. Must have been around 1,800 days when it happened. I'm glad I posted this because when I check my sober app, in 4 days it will be 2,000 days, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you count? Be cool, be well, be happy. Being sober just becomes part of the territory. American Dave in London. Thank you, Dave. I don't know. I love this topic.
Dave in London.
So do you count days? Like what? This is a big topic. People disagree on this. Some people love to count the seconds. Some people just like to say, oh, it's around 5 years or, where do you stand, Mike?
I'm standing right
As
now.
you
Just my
stand.
back hurts. Here's how I stand. I think it all depends on how you measure your own success.
Yes.
For me, I found it very important in the beginning to count days because it showed me how far I had come, right? And one day was a big deal when I had no days. And then 5 days was a big deal because I'd never, hadn't had 5 days in a while. And then sorry, just posing for a photo. So in the beginning, I did count days. I counted the 30s. I counted the 60s. I counted the 90s. I counted the 180s. I counted the 180 is 6 months. Is it? I don't know. 6 months a year. Somewhere after a year, I stopped counting until I started getting close to 2 years. Then I kept looking obsessively again.
Right.
But since 2 years, I haven't really looked at all, although I'm 956 days today. I just know that because I looked it up 2 days ago. But so that's what I do. I think for some people, counting may be not a good idea. If you're having so many day ones that you're finding it really hard to get traction, then maybe counting is not the way you should be measuring your success.
Yeah, because it'll
percentage.
feel like,
You should measure it by a percentage of days sober versus days drinking.
because it can feel like an impossible task. I remember everybody was counting days when I started, going to the rooms, and I've got 14 days, 3 hours, 10 seconds. And so, of course, you want to do what everyone else is doing. That seems to be the way to measure, like the most basic, obvious way to measure how you're doing. And so I would get 30 days and you get a chip. I would relapse. I get another. You should see my bag of chips that I'm going to bring it in and just, shake it around. And I got to a point where it was like diminishing returns. It was, I keep turning the mic off. It was just like it had a negative effect on me.
Yeah.
Because when I was really counting, whenever I got to a milestone, like 3 months or 6 months, there was all of this pressure I put on myself and other people too. My sponsor, are you getting 6 months? Last time I got 6 months, what happened? I relapsed. So what's going to happen this time? Can I do it? Can I reach the 1 year? And it would make me fail. And it was only when I stopped obsessing over this. The other thing it does is it compounds the feeling of shame and failure.
Yes.
When you do relapse, because then you say, oh, I've lost
all that
184 days and it's gone and I'm back to zero.
Right.
And that whole concept of the abstinence violation effect that we've spoken about is real. And I don't know. I don't like it. For me, I know a lot of people hang their hat on it, and it's a good thing. It keeps them going because they think, I've got this much time, I don't want to lose it.
Right. But even people who have like 5 years, if they relapse after 5 years, the effect of them having all that time and looking at it as a failure as opposed to, a 5-year track record of success, I think that could lead to a lot of suicide, a lot of depression, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For me in AA, I was goal oriented, right? When I was in AA. So I was like, 30 days, I got it. 60 days, I got it. And then 90 days to me was the big goal because that's what they all told me, like do 90 meetings in 90 days. So
I did that same thing.
And then when I got to 90 days, I was like, fuck, I'm done. I did it. And then I went out and had a drink on the 91st day. And I did that a couple of times. And then it became a thing in my head. Like I can't get past 90 days. Like it became like this wall that I built up in my head. Yeah. And that's not healthy. Like that's not what you want. You don't want to set these barriers for yourself, and then you sort of hypnotize yourself into believing that you can never get past that because you've never been able to get past it before.
Yeah. I had to start what I did, and I'm thinking back now, is I started not listening to all of the naysayers and negativity, which I got from everywhere, family, friends, recovery groups. I got to a point where I knew I was doing better. I knew I felt better. I knew my thoughts were better. I knew my behaviors were improving, but then I would slip.
Right.
Everyone would know because I'm taking piss tests. It was this big, horrible thing, and I'm on probation, and what's wrong with you? And you must be doing something wrong, and because, it didn't work, and here you are. But I remember thinking, I know I'm doing better.
Yeah.
I know I'm feeling better. Fuck all of these people. I'm going to do what I do best, pick myself up, and just keep getting better. And I remember having these arguments with my wife, when I would relapse, but I wouldn't go out like for another month. It would just be like a one time thing, which is bad.
Right. But not like you were.
No. And it was impossible to argue that point from my position,
right.
Because I'm the asshole. I'm like the morally deficient criminal, that's ruining our lives and everything. So how could I possibly tell you that I'm doing better when here I am slipping? But I knew that I was getting better, and I kept pushing until my life got so much better, even that, it didn't matter how many days, and I just stopped relapsing finally. And then it was like, I don't know, a year goes by, and I would look back and I go, hey, I've just been sober a year.
Right.
It was like a few days, afterward, I realized it. And for me, that was better. That was better for me because I just could not get out of my own way with the counting of the days. It's just not a good measure for me.
It's not a good measure in general. And it's one thing if it's sort of just you who has to wrestle with the idea in your head about days and not being able to meet a certain number of days. But in your case, and in a lot of people's cases, where abstinence is considered recovery, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's not the way science looks at addiction, right?
Right.
I mean, relapse is a part of recovery, and the idea that you could be punished by the state or punished by a probation officer or somebody for something which is an integral part of recovery,
or your group leader at these outpatients that make you feel like an asshole.
But I mean I guess this is the larger discussion that needs to be had is whether abstinence is a measure of success in recovery, because there's plenty of recovery modalities right now that are going on that are not abstinent based. I mean, look at the whole Sinclair method, right? You take the pill and then you go out and you're
supposed to have a drink.
You're supposed to have
That's
a drink,
how it works.
Right? And I remember something that Evan Haynes said when we were interviewing him. I don't know if he said it here or if I heard it on another podcast, but he said that his partner, Bob Forrest, who, came up in the traditional, 12-step milieu and all this stuff. And he said that Bob and his group solely focused on long-term abstinent recovery are probably going to be the last generation,
right,
for whom that is the standard of recovery.
That stuck out to me that Bob Forrest said to Evan that this modality or this way of thinking is going to, quote, die with me.
Right.
He's the last. And I think that may be a good thing.
It may be. I mean, for me, I guess I'm old enough that I still sort of measure success in recovery by abstinence.
It's the easiest thing, though. That's why.
But I mean, to me, it's like abstinence is like it's a choice. It's not a chore. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm choosing it because I prefer this state of mind.
Right. But when it's the end all be all, it's all you're shooting for, really.
Right.
I think a lot of people, but it's very important. That's why I think it was good that you're counting days at the beginning, just because you're really trying to, maybe you have to at the beginning.
You know what? I'm a runner. I count miles. I count minutes run. I count days. I mean, it's part of it happens to dovetail nicely with my personality and the way I look at life in general. Right. So, okay, that's good for me. That's what I do. But I think that it should be for everybody? I don't think so.
Anyway, so that's a particularly pertinent post. Tell us what you think. There was some great responses to that we're going to spare you reading all of them, but I think it's a great topic. It's one of these things, part of the show is discussing, taking a look at the way things have been done and saying, is this right? Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in a good spot to look back and say, how did this work? And
maybe we should have another segment called "Is This Bullshit?"
Is this bullshit? And so tell us what you guys think. Write us at MikeR@middleagesrecovery.com. And after this, we are going to move on to our very special Recovery in the News Extra. And I think we'll take a short break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back after these words.
Yeah. And we're back. Are you back?
Yes.
Are you getting some water? Okay. So, speaking of non-abstinent methods of recovery, we're going to take a look at an article from the New York Times called "The Next Big Addiction Treatment" by the author Brendan Borrell. This is in the March 31st issue of the New York Times under the Wellness section. And the next big addiction treatment, I don't want to keep any of you in suspense, but it's magic mushrooms.
Yes.
Psilocybin. In recent years, there's been a whole bunch of research that suggests that psychedelic drugs can help people manage a variety of mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, PTSD, eating disorders. But a growing body of data, according to this article, points to one as the leading contender to treat the intractable disease of substance abuse, psilocybin. The active ingredient in psychedelic mushrooms has shown promise in limited early studies not only in alcohol and harder drugs, but also nicotine, all of which resist long-term treatment. I found this really interesting because the cure, right, of psilocybin, I don't know about you, but I've taken my fair share of acid and psilocybin trips in my life.
Me too.
And it seems like such an extreme method. Like you're basically deconstructing your personality and reconstructing it.
It breaks reality down.
Yes.
Completely.
And doesn't that seem like a big step to take when you're trying to just say quit smoking?
Well, they're talking probably about microdosing, which...
No, they're not. They're actually talking about heroic-sized doses.
Oh.
So they relate the story of this woman from Boston who is a professional. She's an investor, and she wanted to quit smoking, and she had heard about these psilocybin therapies and managed to find a trial at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. So she flew down there, and before she did the treatment, they had to do a brain scan of her to sort of get a baseline, and she had to not smoke for 24 hours before the baseline. And she said it was the most hellish 24 hours she ever had. So she had a couple of talk therapy sessions at Hopkins. She was given a single pill containing 30 milligrams of psilocybin, which is a relatively high dose. She took the pill, put on an eye mask, laid on the couch, and went on a psychedelic trip with two therapists, which seems really weird to me, but I guess that's how you should do it, for the next 5 hours. I mean, I would just take mushrooms and run around in the woods, but I guess I wasn't trying to stop smoking at the time. So anyway, when her trip ended, she sat up and looked at the therapist. Now I understand why I smoke, she said, and I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to this. You know, the first time I did mushrooms, I was at boarding school, and I had this hippie roommate, JJ, who was all about the Grateful Dead, which was weird at the time. Like, I didn't know, but he was a deadhead, and he found these magic mushrooms, you know, and he's like, you want to try them?
Found them.
And I don't know where he got them, you know, but he got them. And I was always up to try something new, especially in high school, and I was away from home and everything. And but he did it. He's like, listen, dude, you know, he's very like, listen, you're going to take this and I'm going to guide you through it, man. I'm going to guide you through it. It was me and this other friend of mine, Johnson.
How old were you?
15.
So you're with a 15-year-old Grateful Dead shaman who's going to take you on a psilocybin trip.
Yep. Okay. In our dorm room, and we had the whole night. It was like a Saturday, so we didn't have anything like required anything at that night. It was me and my friend Johnson, and he was walking us through it. And it was all of the things you think of, you know, it's like, okay, he's like, you know, you're starting a trip, cool, man. He's like, all right. And he's talking, he's like, how are you feeling? And he's like, so he guided us just like a therapist,
right,
but 15, through the whole thing. And I had the most beautiful experience. I still think fondly on that time. And just like, but I did have those kind of out of body revelations, and to get outside myself and to see things from a perspective I couldn't even imagine before I did it. I don't know. It can go horribly. I think it's great to have a 15-year-old deadhead walk you through it, or a therapist. I think could be.
I think it needs to be somebody you trust. Yes. Because your mental state going into these things is extremely important. I mean, I learned a lot of
He's like, don't look in the mirror. Whatever you do, don't look in the mirror.
That's sound advice for anyone taking any kind of psychedelics.
Oh, I've done it, though.
Me too.
I was on acid, and it was like 16. It was New Year's Eve. Quick story. I was tripped, and I was the only one of my friends who was taking acid, because I was like at boarding school. I'd come back on visit, and I'd be like the kid on drugs.
Right.
And so I took a couple hits of acid. And I remember we were getting ready to go out, and I was looking in the mirror, staring at myself, and I was like, do I look good, or do I look like my hair's on fire? And then he'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, am I looking like a snake more, or how do I just remember being so tuned up, but I fucking love that shit.
Yeah, it's great. Psychedelics I've had good trips and I've had bad trips, but I've learned something from every one of them.
Yeah.
So the study that this woman was participating in, they did an earlier version of it, published in 2014, with 15 smokers, and they had an 80% success rate of people who still weren't smoking, I think, a year afterwards, compared with 35% typically observed in patients taking Chantix, which is, I guess, the typical pill that they give. So they've expanded the study to include more participants. They got a $4 million grant from the National Institutes of Health. So that's nicotine, right? And I guess the thinking is, because of the way psilocybin works, I mean, it's not like a Chantix or even like naltrexone or something, which blocks the desire to use the thing. What it does is it allows you to sort of deconstruct your personality and figure out where that need is coming from and what's driving it. Because they really don't speak about the specifics of what this psilocybin therapy really is.
I don't think they know, but I feel like some people have said that it's like getting 20 years of therapy in one session.
Yeah.
Like, you make breakthroughs. That's why people like this ayahuasca. It's the same thing.
I mean, and okay, that's great. But what if you're, mentally fragile to begin with? There are people for whom taking psychedelic drugs like psilocybin or LSD, there's studies that have shown that if you have a predisposition towards schizophrenia, it can actually kick that off inside your head, whereas it may have lain dormant had you not gone down the psychedelic road. So my concern is that these clinics are going to start popping up. Quit smoking in one treatment of psilocybin, and so all these people are going to be walking off the street and sitting down and like experiencing ego death in 3 hours over their lunch break, and then trying to go back to work and put the pieces of their fucking life back together.
Yeah, don't go back to work.
I couldn't function normally for days. And there were times when I took acid multiple days in a row.
Acid
never
is
a good
different.
idea.
No, because that's a 10-hour situation.
It is.
Mushrooms can leave the body, if I remember correctly, 3 to 6 hours, I think. psilocybin.
People would pee. Well, there's that whole thing like people in Mongolia would drink reindeer urine because the reindeers would eat the psychedelic mushrooms.
And it tastes great and is refreshing.
And then they would pee it out and people would gather the urine and drink it.
Oh.
And then they could get high off it.
People will do anything to get high.
They will.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And then, of course, there's issues of access and equity, right? It's a 5-hour duration. So how much 5 hours of therapy cost, right? And who's going to pay for that? And is this something that only like neurotic upper middle class people who want to quit, drinking and smoking or have access to, or insurance companies going to pay for this? But I guess that's like some things down the road.
Yeah, maybe we should let the guinea pigs be neurotic, upper class people. Like, let them figure it out before we start handing it out at soup kitchens.
I don't know. It's strange, but I mean, on the flip side of that, you and I always sit here and we talk about how addiction has very little to do with like actual substance abuse and very much to do with what else is going on in your mind and in your conscious and in your subconscious, and the idea of trying to integrate what's going on in your subconscious and in your conscience and in your shadow with your waking life. And, I guess you can do that through years of meditation if you have the discipline and you have the time and you have the ability to access, the resources to make that effective. But, is this a shortcut to that? Can you go into this psychedelic experience and really learn something important and lasting about let's say the trauma that you experienced and how to work through that? And
I think why not? I mean, obviously everybody's going to be different. Like you said, some people this will not work for, but why shouldn't it be available? Like, why should I think it was probably dumb to begin with to make, psilocybin was it a Schedule 1 or a Schedule 2?
Yeah,
illegal.
They were researching it, and
let them research it.
And then the hippies got a hold of it, and all of a sudden they were painting buses Dayglow orange and driving around the country like, it freaked out the squares, man, and they clamped down on it because they didn't like the idea of people like unprogramming their minds from the propaganda that's been stuffed in their whole lives, right? And becoming independent, creative thinkers. I mean, that's kind of how I see that. But, and the thing that just kind of blows my mind is like, in 2000, they did another study at Johns Hopkins to study the psychological effects of psilocybin on 30 volunteers. And they gave a survey to the participants 2 months after the session. And over half the people ranked that one session as among the most meaningful experience of their life. I mean,
yeah,
that is incredible. But to me, it's sort of like, if you use something like that to quit smoking, is that like using a shotgun to kill a mosquito? Like, is it, or should everybody do it?
Well, the first time I tried mushrooms in high school, I thought, as I think a lot of people do when they take it, I thought, man, everybody should do this. If only everybody could get the perspective that I just gained,
yes,
the world would shift happily now.
Right.
Earth, shift happily now. I think, listen, I believe in psychedelic treatment. I think, it's like any kind of, formerly illegal drug that could be abused, being used now for research and now for something positive. It's dicey. It makes us uncomfortable because of, how we've been indoctrinated since we are children. But I think if we are realistic and look at the actual results and what it's really doing, it sounds to me, based on my experience and based on what I'm reading here, that this could be, just another tool, for everybody who, everyone is different. We say that a million times. Like, why not?
Right.
Like, what's a good reason? Like, give me a reason not.
The only reason I would, and I wouldn't say not, I would just say to be cautious, is that as different municipalities race to decriminalize psilocybin, it still remains on, the illegal under federal drug laws. I worry about sort of like what happened in Portland with the rapid legalization of all drugs without a framework built up to handle the fallout.
Do you think that'll peter out though, as people, if it gets to be less of a novelty, and the people who overdo it either die or go to jail for some other reason?
I don't want people dying or going.
People are going to die no matter what.
Yeah, but
none of us gets out of here alive.
I think if you're going to, I think you absolutely should people should take psychedelics. I think it really does a good thing to your brain.
Responsibly.
Yes,
please don't just tell people to take psychedelics.
And I think you really need to take a long history, and you have to look at people's genetic history in their family, and whether there's schizophrenia in the family, or whether there's any of these other issues that could potentially be brought out. You can't just be giving something this powerful willy-nilly. I say this as a deadhead who took fistfuls of acid in parking lots and then let Jerry Garcia melt my fucking mind for hundreds of times, and I'm okay, right?
And you're a lawyer.
I'm okay, but I have friends who are not okay, who went through that same thing and did not come out the other side intact.
Do you think it could cause permanent? I mean, is there permanent damage that can be done with one time? Though?
Well, what does that even mean? Permanent damage? Like, does that mean like you decide like you want to take yourself out of the the grind, out of the capitalist machine, and become like an artist and go paint butterflies and shit?
That would be good.
Yeah, I think that's a positive.
But what about something akin to like wet brain? Is that a possibility?
I definitely have seen people that have taken too much acid.
What about the guy from Pink Floyd? There's always those rumors about
Sid Barrett. Classic example of somebody who probably had pre-existing genetic predisposition to schizophrenia set off by the LSD, because he was never the same. You can blame the LSD. It probably wasn't the LSD itself. It probably was the LSD interacting with his specific brain chemistry. But that's exactly my point. You don't know how many Sid Barretts you're going to get out there.
Right.
And some poor woman, who wants to quit smoking because her kids are young and doesn't want to die of lung cancer.
I'll be right back. I'm going to go get some
5 hours later, she's like in a psychotic break, and, she's got to be institutionalized, I mean, is that overstating the potential for that happening? I don't really know. I'm hardly like a just say no kind of guy, about stuff like this, but I just think care and caution is necessary, because people, they're also pushing this ketamine therapy, and what's interesting about ketamine is the antidepressant effects of ketamine wear off over time, and you may need repeated infusions. And ketamine is a drug of abuse. It has addictive propensities, where psychedelics do not, where psilocybin and LSD do not. So sort of lumping those together and saying like all of these drugs are of a type, I think that's a little irresponsible also, but
well, there's an uncertain future, I think. Although psilocybin remains illegal under federal drug laws, some cities, including Denver, Santa Cruz, California, have decriminalized it. And Oregon, in November 2020, voted to become the first state to legalize it for medical use.
Everything's legal in Oregon.
Is that waning at all? Is it getting less horrific?
I wonder. You know what? I do have to go back in the fall for a conference. I'll let you know.
Because my theory is the people who are going to go, overboard are either going to die, be incarcerated for some other crime, and then the rest of, the people, it's going to start to be, because I was reading, I think it was Evan Haynes' book, where before heroin became this major bad guy, Schedule I narcotic, you could get it you could just go to the pharmacy. It's in everything. And
it was in all those patent medicines.
Yeah, and that you didn't, according to Evan's book, there wasn't a lot of report, like the kind of heroin use that we see today, the people dropping dead, all of it.
Well, it's a fentanyl thing.
Well, now it's fentanyl, but, maybe that's something, to look at. I don't know. None of us knows.
I don't know. I mean, it's funny because they say that they're looking at psilocybin for cocaine use disorder. And I don't know about you, but I used to there's a handful of times when I would be tripping on LSD after a Dead show, and I'd go score some crack and smoke it. And we used to call that space basing.
When you do what?
When you smoke crack if you're on acid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Space base. I like the sound of that. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? I mean, I've seen so many different opinions on this. Listen, the research is happening finally. I think the more the better as far as data is concerned.
Right.
Let's continue to gather data. Let's not make any snap judgments based on our fucked up histories with drugs. Like,
Fair enough.
It's very easy to not be objective with this because of our histories.
Maybe we should go down to Peru and do a show from an ayahuasca treatment center.
I think that would be just like Recovery Elevator Guy.
Yeah. But what if we decided that we didn't like each other after that?
That would be bad. So long as we got it on tape and,
Well, that's the thing. We would have to record the entire ayahuasca trip.
That's right. I'll wear one of those lapel mics.
There are places opening up. You can do them in the States now.
Yeah. I don't know. We shall see.
You can also get DMT vapes in Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with DMT, man. From what I heard.
DMT is like the businessman's psychedelic. You do it on a lunch hour.
I've got fear. I have a real fear of DMT.
Why?
Because I remember being in certain psychedelic situations with acid where I could see how deep it could go. And I was like happy I didn't go that deep. Like I could see that, wow, this could get a lot deeper, or like could get a lot further. And from what I understand, DMT is instant as far as you can get from the earth. Like you're like your light body just shoots up and you see everything in 360 degrees and you're like, you detach from your fucking physical form. Like I don't want that.
But you would appreciate this. Like many people who take DMT report this having the same experience. They see the machine elves, which are like the little people who are actually running everything.
Yeah, I've seen them.
So
yeah, I know.
And
the mechanical spiders. Elves? I've seen the mechanical spiders.
I took acid once, and I went down to Battery Park, and we were sitting there and watching the sunlight reflect off the water in New York Harbor, and the way it was reflecting off the water was so like mathematical that it just looked like it didn't look like water anymore. It just looked like a chaos field. It was so fucking cool. The Statue of Liberty, like just kind of floating right above it. And we just sat there and we were all seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we just sat there for like 2 hours staring at the water moving around in geometric patterns. It was such a fucking crazy. And then we went up to the top of the World Trade Center. Oh, that was a great trip. Anywho, so that's that.
We didn't play the Recovery in the News song.
Because we're kind of...
Well,
is that Recovery in the News?
Well, it's the Recovery in the News Extra.
Okay.
So maybe we've got another article to go over. And for this one, we're going to do the song. Yeah!
You just want to do the song.
Recovery in the News. Recovery. We didn't tape it. We were supposed to be on video.
Oh, shit.
But we forgot to do it.
We'll do it next week.
Sorry, guys.
Motherfucker.
We were just...
Motherfucker.
Yeah. So this next one, We Need Trauma-Informed Workplaces by Catherine Manning.
Yes, we usually don't cover articles from the Harvard Business Review here at RMA, but this one sort of popped up on, I think it was on Sober Linings Playbook this week.
Yes, SoberLiningsPlaybook.com.
Yeah, which is Grant's site where he aggregates all of the news stories that he comes across pertaining to addiction and recovery over the course of the week. It's an excellent resource. It's sort of a one-stop shopping for addiction and recovery-related news. But somebody made a comment to us in a review, Nat, you might remember last week, that they appreciated that we approached addiction from a trauma-informed perspective. And I started thinking about that. And then when this article popped up, I was like, well, that's interesting because apparently we're not the only ones who are or who should be approaching life from a trauma-informed perspective, because now that everyone's going back to work and, post-pandemic, I mean, of course, there's lots of people that have been working through the pandemic who have clearly sustained their own traumatic experiences because of that. But there's all these people who are going back to work, to offices where nothing has changed in terms of the way the people in management and human resources and so on are prepared to deal with people who have been through very difficult experiences. Maybe they've lost a loved one. Maybe they have just had major changes in their life outlook during the pandemic since they've been out of work for 2 years. And I'm sort of identifying myself in that category. So there is all this post-pandemic trauma that people are coming back to the office with, but there's also all this pre-existing trauma that has always been there, that hasn't really ever been addressed in the workplace, because the workplace has always been thought of somewhere where you go and exchange your labor in return for money, and any sort of touchy-feely stuff was never really a part of the work experience. But this article in the Harvard Business Review puts it out there that since so many Americans have suffered from trauma at some point in their past lives, maybe in their past life as well, that the workplace, in order to be successful and to be a place that people want to go to, should take a trauma-informed approach to dealing with their employees. Now, the statistics they cite say that estimates say 6 in 10 men and 5 in 10 women experience at least one trauma, and approximately 6% of the population will experience PTSD at some point in their lives. I think that statistic is low. I think it's more than 5 in 10 women, because we all know the rate of sexual abuse of women when they're young is extremely high. So I don't know if that was a self-reporting survey or what have you, but how do you define trauma, right? Well, it could be domestic violence, sexual assault, racism, bias, harassment, economic uncertainty, or political division,
Political division.
So, yeah, I don't get that one either.
Like
but
in a family where the parents are fighting over
politics.
politics.
Let's face it, whatever you think of Trump, he certainly cleaved a big line, in this society, and sort of...
It was an unprecedented polarization of the country.
That may have existed beforehand, but it was certainly brought into sharp relief.
It was pronounced.
In 2016
big
and
time.
on. So the other reason they say that the workplace should be someplace that's, trauma informed, is because the lines between work and home tend to blur. And, we have greater expectations that the places that we work, the organizations that we work for, need to supply support and leadership to employees. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think it's the responsibility of a company?
This is such a perfect topic for me, because this is exactly, without me reading this article or knowing about this is exactly the approach I've been taking since day one with this company. The company I started working for was a very traditional workplace, obviously, like many. People in the office, 9 to 5. It's stressful, but you had your typical office camaraderie and all of that. When the COVID hit, it shook that place up. Now, they survived because they did a lot of the technical things to cope with COVID, having people working from home and, remote access, all of that stuff.
Right.
But what we've noticed, when people started to come back, all of that trauma and all of that, like, people just being different because, they've been working from home, and it was just... There was so much trauma. It was almost like a dysfunctional family. And all of the employees, I saw them as, abused children or children who have gone through trauma. And I approach it that way. And I treat them with kid gloves, the ones that remained, and even the ones that, ended up having to leave us or had to fire. I mean, I do everything with, especially new employees. Now, when I'm hiring people, and I'm asking most of them to be in the office with me. I'm like the daddy at this place, and I'm trying to make them understand that I'm here, and you don't have to worry about some manager being abusive or not understanding you or not listening to you. And so I go out of my way to just look each one of them in the eye when I'm speaking to them, to be sensitive to what's happening, in their lives or what they've gone through. If I try and be, aware of things. And I really, really think that that's one of the reasons the energy has shifted so much in that place. And you can feel it, that since the day I got there compared to today, it is a different feeling of energy.
Now, did the employees before you got there, because the article goes into the two concepts they talk about that organizations need to be aware of to be trauma informed. One of them is institutional betrayal, and the other one is psychological safety. So institutional betrayal occurs when an institution you trust or depend upon mistreats you. So if you have a shitty manager, or you have people who are power tripping in the office or whatever.
This is what I'm cleaning up at there. That's what happened before. It's why I'm there.
Right. So, it can be part of the culture. Of the organization, a culture of betrayal.
Yes.
And, you're never going to be able to retain. And not only that, but people who are, and the article doesn't really mention this, but people who are already struggling with stuff like substance abuse issues, whatever, if they get like some kind of a megalomaniac sort of sociopathic or narcissistic manager, they can really exacerbate someone's reliance on drugs and alcohol, because there's no safe space at work, and there's no safe space at home.
And I sensed that when I came in, and I could see the way people's body language, and they were, unsure what was I doing there, Right. And what I was really trying to just get across to some of them was like, this is safe. You can trust me. I want you to please stick with me. I know it's been hard. I know you've been wronged. I know the last situation, you don't want to trust us. Please, just work with me a little bit. Stick with me. I'll show you. Things are going to get better, and I will be here every day. Here's my cell phone. And then also to back that up. So they do call, and now and it took some time for them to see that I was for real and that I'm there day in, day out. I put on a happy face. I ask them how they're doing. When they're looking for me, they can find me. I don't get angry, and you can see that it took them some time, the ones that stuck around, but some of them were so traumatized by the situation. They couldn't even look me in the eye. And I, they're like, I don't believe it can get better.
So what you've done is you have taken the flip side of institutional betrayal by providing psychological safety, which is the sense that within your team or organizations, it's acceptable for someone to admit they made a mistake, or don't know an answer, or are struggling. And that's critical, apparently, to making an organization work. And I don't want to sit here and start sounding like we're some kind of business school, lecture. But
this is so pertinent because, and I have techniques for doing that, which is, I'm self-deprecating.
Yeah.
I'm learning, and I make mistakes, and I own everything. And people see that, and they appreciate it.
Did you know that the Centers for Disease Control identify 6 guiding principles for a trauma-informed approach to dealing with people who are potentially experiencing trauma?
Tell me more.
The first one is safety. The second one is trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and historical, cultural, and gender issues. So you can break those down into 3 overarching concepts, which would be acknowledgement. I will be heard by the people in charge. Mm-hmm. Support. I can get the help I need if I need it. And that covers everything from, employee assistance programs that an employee who is having an issue with alcohol and drugs feels like they can approach the organization and the organization will help them rather than just firing them, and trust. I will be treated fairly. So,
and it's. I wish I had read this, but it just reinforces what I feel like I knew in my heart I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And I just, no matter how hard it was and how resistant, because it was such a toxic environment, and I was just determined to just fucking love the shit out of it until it turned around, until they believed me that I care and I'm dedicated to making it better and, being a better manager than they've ever had. And I think it's working.
Great. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do you think 12-step programs, rehabs, places like that approach people with trauma-centered approaches, or do you think better work and more work could be done in that area? What was your experience? Did people provide a safe atmosphere for you to feel safe in?
Not always. In fact, rarely. And, and I had some very traumatizing, but they make you feel like you deserve it, and there was this one particular place called The Tempo Group. I'm naming them because I fucking hate those
naming
people.
And shaming.
Naming and fuck those people because it was the most negative energy. You walked into that group, and remember, I had to go to this for my probation. This was approved by OASIS, which is the New York State, OASAS, I think. And so I just remember, like, I was going to get better and to feel better and to complete my probation, stuff like that. And the feeling I got walking into that group, it was just toxic. It was negative. I felt small. It was just the worst feeling. And then it would get worse with the group leader, Marty. And every time it would get to me, even just the asking how I'm doing was accusatory. And it could have been in my head, but I don't think it was, thinking back on it, because it was happening over and over. And more than once, I walked right out of there and I went to the liquor store before I went home.
Right.
Risking my freedom in life because I couldn't be drinking. Because, so it was the exact opposite. And there's so many places like that, court ordered, and it's abusive. And the dehumanization of, urine tests. And when you do slip, it's like, what's wrong with you? And, you did it again. I'm going to have to call your probation. Like, there was no safety. Not in every place, but, that one in particular and most of them.
Well, given that people like Gabor Mate and others seem to be coalescing around this idea that trauma is at the root of most addictions, it would seem like, at the very least, in a treatment program for addictions, trauma would be something that you address first and foremost from the outset, which is why a place like, Allo Recovery and Evan Haynes' group, that whole idea about, treating with compassion, and unconditional positivity, not toxic positivity, but unconditional positive regard, I think it's called.
Yeah. Yes.
Which seemed to be a far more effective way to deal with people whose real root issue is trauma that's manifesting in addiction rather than
unconditional positive regard. I remember reading that and it like a light bulb. I was like, yes,
yep,
I love that. And it's, I think everybody deserves that.
Yeah.
So
we could all benefit from having trauma-informed workplaces, trauma-informed treatment centers, and trauma-informed therapists.
Yeah.
Because, that's where it's at.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love this. I think this is very, pertinent, and I'm experiencing this right now. It's so true, and it's reach out to us, tell us what you guys are experiencing. I'd love to hear from the Monksters on your work experiences post COVID. Are you going back? Are you finding that your trauma is getting in the way of you returning to a traditional workspace? Have you seen any differences if you're going back to an old job that is retooled after COVID? I'm very curious to hear how it's going out there.
Yes.
Because every place can't have Nat X as the director.
No.
So I'm wondering if anybody out there is trying to do what I'm doing.
All right. That's it for that article.
And that was Recovery in the News Extra. Did you have another?
I got another one.
All right. We're going to keep going.
All right. This is going to be quick.
All right. Quick one on the extra.
As you know, when I'm trolling the news sites for material, that's what I troll for, material. I have a Google thing set up to, on the term alcoholic. And sometimes I get some interesting articles back from different corners of the world.
And boofing is another one we get. You put the word boofing in.
No, did you put the word boofing in?
Anytime an article with the word boofing.
It comes up for you?
Yeah.
You've yet to share one.
I'm
keeping them all for yourself?
Collecting them, yeah.
Okay.
Filing them.
I got a hit on the word alcoholic from a newspaper in Viet Nam called the VN Express International. And the article is from earlier in April. It's written by, I don't know if it's a woman or a man, I'm sorry, by Hai Hien. And the title is Too Often, Too Much, Wives on Problems of Living with Alcoholic Husbands. Now, It starts off with this sentence. Gwen Tai Ho of Hanoi's Bac Tu Liem district has to ride her motorbike to a beer place her husband frequents to pick him up in an inebriated state. For over 10 years, the 40-year-old has gotten used to her husband going out to drink late at night and not being able to return home by himself. So then she relays the history that when she first fell in love with him, she noticed he drank a lot, but she didn't think much of it because he was just having fun in his youth. And, and you think, okay, this is a pretty typical story. And then it starts to get it's a little strange. Her husband often does not eat dinner at home, claiming he needs to go out to drink with clients to maintain relationships, which will aid in negotiating contracts. They don't specifically say what he does for a living or anything. And then I'm like, well, okay, that sounds like the typical husband getting shit-faced after work, right? And then she goes on. During the birth of their first child 8 years ago, she had an appointment with the doctor for her surgery, and she told her husband to return home soon that night so he could take her to the hospital early the next morning. But he did not return home at all, and she couldn't reach him since his phone was turned off. She contacted a friend who frequently drank with him, and he told her that her husband was drunk and lying on the floor of the pub. So she's been doing this for 10 years now, and she wonders what magical powers alcohol has to have her husband hooked so thoroughly. And I guess Vietnamese men consider drinking an essential part of their life, leaving their wives, girlfriends physically and emotionally drained. One time when I was ill and could not pick my child up from school, I asked my husband to do it, but he ended up forgetting and leaving our child waiting in front of the school gate for hours. I'm like, it just keeps getting worse and worse. Once his wallet was stolen at the pub, but he was so intoxicated he had no idea what happened. He gives his wife a few million dong for
Is that what it is? Yes. How many dongs?
A few million dongs from his monthly salary.
It's really a dong?
For household expenses, and keeps the rest for his, quote, personal expenses and, quote, doing important tasks. Sometimes unable to manage when she asks him for money, his routine reply is he is, quote, out of money.
It's a good
out
reason.
Of money. He crashed into a traffic divider while driving drunk 6 months ago, puncturing his abdomen and requiring the removal of a third of his stomach.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It costs a lot of dongs.
Yeah. So, but there is good news.
What is the good news?
The good news is that this fellow quit drinking, sort of. He, let's see. Sorry, I'm just getting to the bottom. Though Duong has not stopped drinking completely, he only drinks once or twice a month, and he comes home before 11 p.m. I have not lost any valuable deals or friendships since I stopped drinking, he admits.
That's good.
Yes, that's good. So it's a happy ending. But
hanging on, his dongs have a happy ending.
Yes, he has more dongs to spend at home.
Well, I wish him the best. Yes. Hang on to your dongs.
Yes, don't spend your dongs.
And that
is
Recovery the News. Yeah, I was feeling bad because I always sing the same thing on Recovery in the News, and I didn't do it this time.
It's your signature move.
I know. I feel like people are going to be pissed that
we're going to get hate mail.
Stick to the script, and that brings us to. You have the sound cue.
I'm ready.
Weekend Weird. River troll photographed in Mississippi. This is question mark. By who? Tim Banal.
Of course.
A bizarre picture circulating online purportedly shows some kind of humanoid creature that was allegedly spotted by an astounded witness in Mississippi. Maybe. The peculiar photo, which can be seen in our show notes, and an account of the strange sighting was sent to the website Phantoms and Monsters. According to the unnamed individual who shared the image, the incident occurred back in 2015 while the witness and their family were living in a houseboat in coastal Mississippi. On an evening of a particularly low tide, they noticed something peculiar drinking water approximately 25 yards away. And upon taking a closer look with some binoculars, they were astounded by what they saw. What was it? Off in the distance, the witness claims, was an entity that was, quote, pinkish tan with bulging eyes, funny-looking ears, 2 arms, and 2 legs.
That could be anybody in Mississippi.
And what appeared to be horns coming out of its head.
Okay.
While understandably taken aback by the presence of the puzzling being, the confounded observer fortunately had the wherewithal to snap a picture of the puzzling creature that they likened to a river troll that was, quote, was devil ugly. That was devil ugly.
What? How do they know what a river troll looks like?
Well, clearly they've seen one before. To that end, the image accompanying their account shows what appears to be the head of a creature lurking beneath a sizable branch that extends over some water, claiming to have seen, quote, a lot of creepy stuff in the swamp while living in their houseboat.
No.
I'm just, I'm trying to be accurate. The witness asserted that I don't have to prove anything when it comes to the veracity of the photo. Be that as it may, skeptical observers will no doubt suggest that the oddity in the photo is either a trick of light and shadow, it appears to be a creature, or perhaps some prosaic animal native to the region, and that the
Like
witness
what?
merely spun a tail to accompany the image.
What sort of prosaic animal is native to the region that looks like a river troll?
I think it's a river troll. I think, there's no way it isn't a river troll. I think, and we're going to have
I'm sure
to
the picture is crystal clear.
we have to put the picture up.
I put the link up. People can go find the picture.
So look for that link. I want to hear what you guys think. Is it a river troll or some prosaic creature?
It's a prosaic local creature.
Did you know wherewithal is one word?
No.
I've never seen that spelled. Wherewithal. And that is Weak and Weird. And the end of another amazing show.
It was great.
I'm so happy we did it. Well, that about does it for today. I know I had a great time. Did you?
Yeah, I just said I did.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Visit us at middleagesrecovery.com, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter. So tweet us at what you twit. Support your favorite show. Drop a 5-star review on iTunes, please.
Come on, we need more reviews.
Yeah, we need another review. Join the private Facebook group. Buy a T-shirt, please, somebody, or simply write and say hello.
Please, somebody.
We love meeting new Monksters and chopping it up in the Facebook group. Join the Inner Sanctum at patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages for a higher level of recovery support. We've got some video episodes up there.
Higher level.
We're doing more and more. We're talking. Come talk to
Not
us
this week, apparently.
Come talk to the other Monksters. It's just a really great community.
Yes.
We want to have you there. And finally,
We should do some chats.
yes,
We can do chats on Discord.
audio chat, right?
Oh, yeah, audio
Where
chat.
we're all like,
right, talking
it's just
on audio.
yes,
Yeah.
Let's do it. So I mean, anything's possible on that Patreon. It's whatever we want to make it.
Right.
And finally, the best way to help the show is to share it with a friend. If you get something out of our little show, please share the love and help grow the RMA movement. And as we say, non proficiat perfectum.
Progress, not perfection.
See you next time.
Be good, kids. Bye.